In this video, I'm going to give you the easiest process you have ever been given to pass your real estate exam on the first try, guaranteed. Now, before we jump into it, I'm going to try to skip all of the hoo-ha, but just so you know, I am not a real estate teacher. I do have a real estate license in North Carolina and Florida, and I failed on my first attempt taking the test. Now, I know this probably makes you ask yourself, why the heck should you listen to me about passing on your first try if I didn't even do it? Well, I'm speaking from recent experience, and I'm making this video to try to prevent you from making the same mistakes that I did, because after I failed the first time, I followed this process that I'm about to show you, and the second exam was one of the easiest ones that I've ever taken. If you've watched other videos and taken advice from other places on the internet regarding this same topic, you've probably heard all of the same stuff. Like, don't cram everything into just a few sessions. Get a study buddy. Use flashcards, learn all of your course material, yada, yada, yada. But you should know that not only did I follow that advice the first time around, I also failed. And I know several other people that did the same thing and failed on their first attempt as well. So if I didn't do what everybody else is saying, then what did I do? That brings us to part one, so get your notebook out because this is important. So once you've applied for the exam and you've got your test date, you need to have a plan in place to make sure you're prepared for what's ahead, especially if you're anything like me and you tend to procrastinate on literally everything. Firstly, you'll need to understand where you're currently spending your time, because most of you already have a full-time job, kids, a spouse, church events, friends, family, all of these things pulling you in all of these different directions. So be generous to yourself and create a realistic goal. To make things easier for this video, I'm just going to assume that we have 1 month until the test date. And with all of life's challenges already taking place, you might be wondering, where the heck are you gonna even find the time to study? Well, it's simple. It's the same way you found the time to take the course. I might take 20 minutes in the morning before the day starts and 20 minutes in the evening. You can choose whatever you'd like. But in reality, if finding 20, 30, 40 minutes every day to put towards this career before it's even started is hard, you're gonna have an even harder time trying to get buyers to work with or listings on the books. Now, obviously, I know you're aware of the fact that you have an exam to take. But do you really understand what's going to be on this exam? For this plan to work, you're actually going to have to understand what you're going to be tested on, and I'll touch more on this later. But to start, your state should have a breakdown of what topics and how many questions for each topic will be on the exam. And as far as the national portion is concerned, information on this topic is so easily accessible. I mainly use sources like Prep Agent on YouTube and tons of other channels that I just came across. Not to mention, the course that you took for this is probably going to have a ton of information on the national section and the state section anyway. But by doing this, you can actually prepare your mind for what to expect. And just like Benjamin Franklin said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. If you know what to expect, then you can know what to practice. And one thing to keep in mind on top of all of this is your course exam for the program you took is probably going to be quite a bit different than the test that you take for your state and the national portion. Moving on, now that you have your time allocated to study and an idea of what to expect on the test, let's decide what exactly that time is going to be used for. What I used here was a platform called Prep Agent. If you're on YouTube, I'm sure you're already aware of this, and I'm not affiliated with them, but I do know that it worked for me. And you do have to pay for it, but it's worth it. Prep Agent is literally one of the most up-to-date and realistic study resources that you can use in preparation for your exam. And I know because I tried several. The practice questions they give you are literally mere replicas of what's actually on the exam. I don't know how they get it, but it is. Another service that I used was this app called Dearborn Real Estate. I don't know how applicable that would be to you, but I used it just for a second opinion just a few days before the exam. You're going to want to take as many practice exams as possible. I like to refer to this quote by Nick Saban with a lot of things. He was one of the greatest football coaches of all time, so I think he knows a thing or two about practice. In regard to how his team would practice before the game, he said, "Everybody thinks you practice something until you get it right. You really practice until you can't get it wrong." This is the mindset you should have if you want this exam to be easy. You don't want to take practice exams until you get a passing grade. You want to take it until it's literally hard to fail it. I took so many of these that towards the end of it, I would be multitasking, watching TV, cooking dinner, taking this exam, and still getting like 90-95% right. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the math portion. I'm not really going to dive into this too much. I'm no math expert, and there's so much resources around here. Everybody has their own way of doing it. And in reality, if you can master the other parts of the exam, the math portion is not even really going to affect you that much. I would go to somebody's channel that can explain it very well and that can teach you exactly how to get these questions right. And I would watch all their videos and practice as many questions as possible, just like the exam. I did find this one channel, Just Call Maggie. She seemed pretty smart when it came to the math portions of the exam, so you might want to give her a shot. Now, I do want to give an opinion that I have, and seriously take this with a grain of salt, but that is that the real estate exam should be fairly easy. And to be honest, unless you have a massive sphere of influence and a bunch of people waiting to buy and sell real estate until you're licensed, the course and the licensing exam is arguably the easiest part of the entire real estate career. But nonetheless, you still have to pass the exam. And if you follow the simple process I gave you in this video, you'll walk into your exam feeling more confident, and you'll walk out of it with a higher score than you ever would have had in the first place. And if you like this video, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.